All right, welcome everybody to our second Solution Hour. My name is Chris Patterson. I'm the Director of Business Solutions here at Food Services of America in Spokane, Washington. This Solution Hour is part of what we call our FSA Business Advantage series. I've got 25 years general manager experience from Spokane, Seattle, LA. I had the opportunity to work with some independent restaurants where we didn't have much in the line of systems or processes or tools. And then also got the chance to work with some corporates and some chains where I got to learn that structural piece. And have now been consulting with Food Services of America, with our customers for Food Services of America for the last 7 years, and been having a lot of fun doing that. Sitting next to me, joining us today once again, is Chef Alexa Wilson.
Good morning, everybody. Hope you're not sweating it out too much out there in this summer heat, and thank you so much for joining us. My name's Alexa Wilson. I'm the corporate chef for FSA out of the Spokane branch, and my background is about 25 years in food service as well, mostly in the kitchen, or what I like to call the heart of the house. To support your business advantage, FSA Business Solutions, our departments, offer a variety of these complementary services like this Solution Hour. Everything from one-on-one consulting to culinary training, group seminars, management, team consulting, a wide variety of services that we love to offer to our great customers. So thank you so much for participating.
So today, we're talking about budgeting for restaurants. Ultimately, a budget is a roadmap or a path, if you will, for profitability and improvement. Just like taking any trip, we need to start with knowing where you are and really where you want to end up with at the end. In order to know the right road to take to complete the trip and when to make good adjustments to your travel plans, that's what a budget does for us.
Well, and speaking from the gal who'd rather have tongs in her hand than a calculator, budgeting can seem like a really monumental task. I've always overcomplicated it and shied away from it, but realistically, it can be very, very empowering, and the tools that we're going to show you today can help you be much stronger at budgeting in your business without feeling like sand in your shorts.
Well, some of us are at the beach or just came back from the beach, you bet.
Yeah, no kidding. So let's find out, first of all, for our participants here, I'm going to do a little poll, and really what we want to know is, how do you feel about budgeting? Are you comfortable with it or not? Are you doing it or not? If you are just new to it, or if you haven't really discovered the value of it, that'd be about a 1 on the scale versus a 5 being pretty darn comfortable with it. So let us know where you're at, please.
So while you're thinking about that, let's keep this budgeting thing real simple. A budget, quite simply, is an estimate of income and expenditures for a set period of time. It's every bit as important as a P&L or profit and loss statement, but with one critical difference. A P&L is a look backwards at what has happened in your business. The budget, though, is a peek into the future, what might happen. So you're making projections, you're anticipating the way it looks, and really the better the budget and information you put in it, the better the forecast.
So kind of like soup, it's garbage in, garbage out, but it's not quite as mysterious as that magic 8-ball.
No, and hopefully the soup isn't that bad either.
Right. Let's take a look at the poll here. It looks like for the most part, everybody was kind of right in the middle. We've got 44% that said that they're a 3. So I think we've got some really interesting information here to talk about when it comes to budgets that will be of interest to everybody. And we're going to start by breaking the budgeting thing down into really 3 parts. accumulating a history, layering on your trends, and then that magic 8-ball piece. How do I actually make projections?
That's the $64,000 question there. Really, when we start thinking about your history, and I say this quite often in our consulting, a restaurant is dying to tell you its story. And where that story lives really is in the history. It's in the numbers and it's in what has happened. That's kind of where you're starting from. That's on this journey, that's where you start from, is what have you done already?
So a lot of our operators are keeping a daily logbook or a manager's log. And that's a great start, but it really doesn't give you a bigger piece of the financial picture so that you can make those projections comfortably.
Right. And the trends really are a reflection of things that have happened. Watching your trends helps you understand the story a little bit better. It's where you were yesterday versus today, where you were 3 days ago versus today. That gives you a trajectory or basically a trend of what's happening. And then you can then use these trends to make more accurate projections for your business.
So what I really need to do is get out my phone, aka calculator, and make some accurate projections. And if I use accurate projections, I can, especially on scheduling and spending, I know that I'm on track. One of the things that I ask myself a lot is, well, do I really need this detail in my budgeting, all of this math? Why do I need it? What it really comes down to is understanding how to set achievable goals for the business. And it's easy to say, I want to improve my business. I want to improve my sales. I want to have a better food cost or a better labor cost. But those are generic statements, Chris.
Absolutely.
We really have to, as human beings, set specific goals that give us a starting point, measurability, and an ending point, so that we can watch our progress.
Right. We have to be specific in what we're doing. And really what we're talking about is needing a plan. And a budget really ultimately is that plan. You can actually scorecard your success too. With this budget, you have benchmarks for what you're trying to accomplish. And you can make course corrections if we start to drift off the road.
So our first step then is to really accurately document our history, not just a logbook, but something a little bit more in detail.
We have to have detail. And the challenge is for us is we all know our business. We work day in and day out inside our four walls because we're there every day. So we feel how business is going. We intuitively understand what might be right at times, but the reality of that is it is just a perception. And the challenge with the perception is it sometimes comes from one set of eyes.
Now, a perception from somebody who's been doing something for a long time is different than a perception by somebody who's just done it. So we have operators that say, well, I just know when it's time to do this, or I just know when it's time to do that. And for the most part, if they've been doing it for years or decades, they can be fairly accurate at those things. But they're the one who knows it, and the person standing right next to them may not see that same thing. So really what we're talking about here is something called confirmation bias, and our perception we will prove to ourselves over and over again. So if my perception is that my pancakes are the most popular dish in my entire kitchen, every time those pancakes go in the window, my brain is going to note that. And I'm going to see them more than I see maybe the dish that's a pain in the rear to make that I don't like to have on the menu. Therefore, my perception is that everybody loves the pancakes and we're selling a ton of them. But what I really probably need to do is read my sales mix because they may not be the most popular item.
The challenge about that confirmation bias thing is things can change right under your nose, and because we're seeing what we think we should be seeing and watching, we miss something. Really, it's in the numbers that really help us see what is hidden from us.
Mm-hmm. And that detail of information, right?
Right. That gives you the clearest story possible. And it builds your ability to hear the story in your business, that story that it's trying to tell you. It's a matter of listening with different ears.
So it's not just a matter of my sales are off or up or down. It's really how much I need to know exactly.
And where sales are off. You're open 7 days a week. Where are you off in sales?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So let's take another poll here. We work in 4 states, and we commonly hear some very, very consistent comments about our business.
this is predictable for us.
Yeah, this is a predictable part for us. Exactly right. My business is too unpredictable. There's no rhyme or reason to it. So the question for you all is, from where you're standing, how predictable is your business? Let's go not at all, somewhat, or very predictable. And I've got a little story about that from my background. One of the restaurants I ran was in Colorado Boulevard in Pasadena, California. And one fine summer day, we just out of the blue got hammered with some business. And I didn't have enough staff, and it was not a pretty shift. And then, as it turns out, I asked a couple questions. It happened to be the first year of American Idol at the Rose Bowl.
Yikes.
Yeah. And so there was all that chaos going on. And it was a 3-day event. Well, we reacted, and we staffed up for the next couple days, and then learned out for the next few years, American Idol was that same week. So we had predictability, even though we got blindsided by the unpredictable, not expecting it.
So you had the sales predictability the next year, and you had the calendar.
And we're prepared for it. Exactly right.
Well, looking at everybody's responses here, about 69% said that their restaurant was somewhat predictable. Well,
that's a good report.
Mm-hmm,
it's a very good report.
I'm really excited about the 13% that are finding a lot of predictability in their restaurant. And for those of you that feel like it's completely chaotic, you might find a little bit of resolve in some of these tools that we're going to introduce today. Even recording and tracking a simple weekly sales snapshot, in other words, how much did you sell each day of the week, can give you a visual that helps you figure out where your business needs the most support. I can intuitively know that I'm busier on the weekends, but what I really need to know to accurately budget and forecast is by how much and why and where, and what do I need to do to schedule and respond to that business.
Well, the reason why we have a snapshot like this is we start to see the story of what's happening in our business and where that lies. Mm-hmm. We can take that snapshot and we can jump ahead to basically a more of an annual snapshot.
Holy mackerel, Chris.
Yeah, I know. Hopefully everybody's sitting down here. It's not as bad as it looks, but expanding our weekly snapshot can give us more of an annual look. So here we have the annual sales for a local restaurant in downtown Spokane. The gray line is the year 2016, and the yellow line is 2017. I know it looks like a broken saw blade and totally chaotic and unpredictable, but if we take our calendar and we take our weather and we take all the other events in the area and the promotions that you have, you can actually start really identifying the reliable story inside of this chaos, and it becomes much more predictable.
And even though those two quote unquote saw blades look different, there are some patterns of similarity here. When I look at week 1 and 2 of the year, obviously, post New Year's depression, everybody's getting ready to pay some bills there.
And last time I checked, that happens every year.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Week 7, Super Bowl. Maybe this isn't a big sports bar type restaurant, because when I look at that blue pin there, which reflects the Super Bowl, there's a little bit of a drop in their sales on that day. Maybe they're not a sports bar. But then again, maybe they are, because week 11, St. Patty's Day, is a nice little spike in business. Not going to talk about that next red pin because that's tax week, when just about everybody probably scrimps and saves. But Cinco de Mayo, week 19, a spike on the gray in 2016. Maybe in 2017, the weather was a little bit crappy and the patio wasn't as busy.
Right. So we had kind of a rougher time of it.
Mm-hmm.
Then moving forward into the year, now we start looking at these gigantic spikes here. So in week 23, summer barbecue, summer vacation season actually begins, and that kind of happens every year. Everybody gets out of school and they run away, or they start barbecuing on the patios, family reunions, all that stuff really starts and is fairly consistent. Then here in Spokane, there's this event called Hoop Fest. It's the largest basketball 3-on-3 tournament in the world, they say. And for all the downtown restaurants, it's a huge deal. So that's the big spike right there. Depending on week 24, 25, it's just how it drops in the year. That's why there's a slight difference. And then immediately after Hoop Fest is the 4th of July. And we do have that gigantic drop in downtown restaurants, unless you're right next to the park.
Because everybody goes to the lake.
Because everybody goes to the lake, or they're going to the park to watch the fireworks. Mm-hmm. Now, the difference here on the yellow line is in 2017, there was a lot of road construction back.
Oh yeah,
back then.
downtown was pretty clogged up, so that might be what's impacting their sales there over 2016, huh?
That might have been the Cinco de Mayo piece too, as well. But the idea here is you're recording information to help you find the patterns inside the building.
So what Chris has done, and you will have available to you after the solution are today, is he's developed a spreadsheet tool. It's in Excel, and it's designed to walk us through each step of this budgeting and forecasting process. There are going to be some multiple tabs down at the bottom that'll take you through each piece of it, but really what you'll have available after the solution are is an email that comes to you with a download link to this spreadsheet tool that you can take. So we're getting that loaded up right now, and then Chris is going to go ahead and walk us through it. So
here we are. We've got here we have that snapshot now. That's a 5-week history, and if we scroll right through here, we actually see how the sales drop into
the restaurant. You look at this here and you can see Friday and Saturday is over 40% of the sales for this restaurant. So obviously a dinner house or a big weekend house.
certainly. Well, when you look at your Sunday as well, yes, we are a weekend house.
Well, and what the heck's going on Sunday? Most of the time Sundays can be kind of slow, but you look at Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, none of their sales equal the same percentage as Sunday. So maybe this restaurant's got a big Sunday brunch that they're running, or maybe everybody else around them in the community is closed on Sunday and they are benefiting from having an open door on a night of the week when their competition is not.
Well, since we're talking about a story and we're talking about a snapshot, let's dig a little deeper into the why. And so what we have here, down here in this bottom left tab, and it looks a little more intimidating than it is, this is the actual sales breakdown of this restaurant, Monday through Sunday. And you've got 3 columns. We've got a breakfast column.
Okay, so we're not open for breakfast on Monday. That's why
Right.
those are all zeros.
Lunch and dinner.
Okay,
So that's how that is. And here we are. Yes, we're open for breakfast on Saturday and Sunday.
all right.
Okay. Now, what's really important, I need to make sure that when you guys, if you don't have a day part in here, that's not just straight as 0, because the way the Excel worksheet has to work, you have to enter a 001 or 0.001 just so it gives you the number. But to populate your information, it's a real simple process. All we do is we're going to copy your cells, move down 1, paste, and now let's change yesterday's sales. So it was 2360. Oh, well, it was 2369. Let's go. We had a little bit better day, so we're going to 2380. And dinner maybe went a little softer, so we're going to 2150. And bingo, we are updated.
So that's all I have to do each day, because this looks like a lot of numbers and is really scaring the daylights out of
It is a lot of numbers, but it really isn't that much management to start it up.
Okay.
And the cool part about it over here on the lower right side is we now have your 7 weeks history in sales. 7 weeks ago, 6, 5, and then last week, we have the difference in dollars. Now, they're all pluses because we're actually seeing a trend increasing.
A little bit of a trend up. So the $41,000 week is our most recent week. And this is actually the cool part. I'm not going to look at all of that other stuff over there. I'm looking at these percentages and I'm thinking, if I have to make a prediction, I got to pick up that magic 8 ball and figure out what my sales are going to be for next week. This is the best magic 8 ball I could possibly have, because I can see that in the last 3 weeks, we've gone up about 2% every week. And so if I thought maybe we were going to go up another 2% this week, but it's going to be 105 on Thursday, and that's for real here in Spokane, 105.
Sure.
So instead of 2 point something, let's just say 2% as a prediction for next week.
That will work. And the cool part about this information is because of all of these other cells that you have working here, this is live actual history in your building. So we're going to take a 2% jump. So we go over to this other tab on the forecasting side.
We'll go to about 42,000 will be our sales next week.
That'll be 42,000. So what this is doing is it's telling you your average mix right here overall. And you were right, Alexa. We are a dinner house right there. That's telling that. And there's our lunch pieces right there. Now the 42,000 was our projection. And this information then now drops over here. And we have our actual projection based on our actual sales in our building. So on the $42,000 projection, your Friday dinner is going to be $7,552 as a projection. Now, the other element of this, talking about forecasting, you want to run a labor. Your labor percent, let's say, is 30%. Your house average wage is 14. You get a budget of 900 hours to spend. And the part about that is this is where you spend it, right here. Now, again, I'm going to just show you that if we change these and you want to run a 25, it's all interactive. You can change the targets based on your building and what you want to accomplish.
So it's telling me I have 900 hours of labor to schedule. But being the chef, I realize I don't get all 900 hours, and we have to stretch that out over the week. So the real next detail then for us is front of house, back of house, fighting over the schedule, hours available, and figuring out how to deploy that to meet the needs of the restaurant.
That's true. That's true. And as I'm front of house, you're back of house, we're going to have to come to an agreement on that. But the way,
so I just get more labor?
No. No, the way we look at that, we have to look at it. There really are two different types of labor inside your building.
That's true.
And the way you break it down is production and hospitality. And they really serve two different functions. One is all about cost controls and processes and systems and being consistent and reliable and dependable on how we handle the products, cases, plates, moving through things through space.
So you're talking about my back of house.
Exactly.
And for us, we have to be set and ready, and all that has to happen with labor dollars before the restaurant's actually busy.
Right. And for that standpoint, I can surrender some front of house labor because I don't need that bulk up labor.
Just be standing around watching us prep.
Yeah, okay. And snacking.
Ooh.
The other element of labor that we need to pay attention to is the other one drives the hospitality, or really we're in business, the revenue. And we drive it by selling and making sure we're matching that labor pool to the sales that we need to accomplish. And we saw that on our day parts, which are the busier day parts. That's what helps us drive that revenue a lot more. So we know that revenue is king. We need to feed the king. We need to support that.
With revenue as our focus, let's ask another poll question. So take this into consideration, everybody. Most of our operators want to increase sales. We really haven't consulted in 4 states and found anybody that is 100% satisfied.
Maybe that one guy.
But what we really find is a wide variety of strategies to accomplish sales growth. And what we want to know is, what's your most effective way that you have found to accomplish that in your restaurant? Are you doing server contests? Have you offered coupons or discounts to your dining customers? Have you done some external marketing, or is it just something else that we haven't mentioned yet?
The fun thing about server contests is they can be really engaging for the team, and they can get something they can get excited about. It's something that involves the customers, and it can help the kitchen because we're selling the right items, can help your bottom line by selling high profit items, but that can be a lot of fun. Coupons or discounts can be very effective too. It's the cautious part about that is making sure we're not trading profitable sales for cheaper sales. But if you're gaining new visitors, that's a bonus.
Absolutely. And then you've got external marketing, which can be radio, TV.
Can be a little more elusive, but it's still very important. We need to do that, yes.
And we certainly see a lot of that external marketing from our corporate restaurants, the chain restaurants. Even before they come to town, they will stage everything.
Start peppering the fields a little bit.
Absolutely. That's how they're trying to grow revenue before they even have a a business that you can walk into. And when I'm looking at the poll, it looks like we're kind of all across the board. We've got about 30% that have done something else. People tried external marketing. It looks like there's couponing going and server contests. So what that tells me is that everybody is really trying to find some way, shape, or form to grow their revenue.
Except for that one guy we talked to.
Except that one guy, and I don't think he's on the poll here. But let's consider this. Most dining rooms are busy at some point in time. Right. They're going to have that full, vibrant feel. What if your revenue goal is already in your dining room? Let's take that into consideration and talk about how we're going to capture that revenue.
Well, again, what's the story of our restaurant? Our restaurant's trying to tell us a story, and if we take a look at an hourly snapshot, we now have a story. Since we're specifically talking about driving revenue, you start by tracking your sales when they happen, when they actually happen inside your building. So what we have here is we have a Friday. We have a Friday shift that has two massive, I call them camel humps. It's really where the business directly lies. The question is, are you scheduling your sales team to meet the needs of the camel humps?
Yeah, unlike any other expense on your P&L, labor really has to get micromanaged by the hour, sometimes even down into half an hour or 15-minute segments or increments to be dialed in, because it is the most controllable expense that we have in the building.
Right. And like when we start laying out the two different types of labor, kitchen labor, obviously we have prep and we need to schedule when we need to build up for business. But if we do something like block scheduling, particularly, and I'm talking about the front of house right now, where you bring everybody on at a certain time and we par up to, let's say, 4 servers, and that's just our par, we run the risk of creating some huge gaps in efficiency and our opportunity to sell.
Well, labor obviously has to be lean when the sales aren't there, but when it's busy, you can only maximize your revenue with servers that have time to sell.
Exactly right. And being overstaffed costs you money and deteriorates efficiency.
Deteriorates efficiency. We all know why a guest waits half an hour for a salad at 4:00 in the afternoon when we're fully staffed up in the kitchen and fully staffed up out front, and for whatever reason, not very efficient in the restaurant.
It's because we lose intensity because we are actually overstaffed. It's one of those things where we think we're set and ready, but we're overdoing it.
Mm-hmm. So the real key here is, in our opinion, to maximize your full dining room. A server with too many guests quickly becomes an efficient order taker and might be a great food deliverer, and they might be really efficient at that point in time. But what they're trading for that efficiency, all that running back and forth and all of that pressure and stress, what they're trading for that is a valuable sales conversation with your guest. They're trading your guest's experience for the sake of moving food through space from my kitchen to the dining room table. And what we often find is quite interesting that when dining rooms are full and everybody's there and everybody's hitting on all cylinders and everything's going the best it can, that our check averages are actually lower during peak periods than our guest check average when we have the right amount of servers and the right amount of staff and the right amount of guests balanced out.
Which is really too bad, because that's our prime opportunity to grow revenue. It's right here, right now, at the two peaks. Mm-hmm. So how do we address this? Is starting having an honest conversation with yourself. How many customers can a well-trained server deliver great customer service? And what is that breaking point? And it's what we call your customer to server ratio. And the thing is it depends on what your service style is, what your menu is, how many tables they take. It depends on what kind of service you want to deliver, and it'll be different for everybody. You'll need to decide what that ratio is for your building. But the challenge for me was always, anytime I heard my team say I'm going to get air quotes, handled it, I knew the inverse was the customer's experience was impacted, and it wasn't a positive impact. Anytime you hear people handling it, that means we're not really peaking the peak. We're getting through the shift.
And that might mean that they have a great sense of accomplishment because they were efficient and they got the food out and nothing came back and there weren't any complaints. But that doesn't mean that the guest experience was maximized. And we all know that guests that are having a better time spend more money.
And they stay longer and they tell more friends.
Absolutely. So, Chris, let's show them the tool that generates this hourly snapshot piece.
All right. So here it comes.
And it's going to start out with another spreadsheet in Excel that you populate.
Right. So basically, this is similar to the actual history, but this is more of a daily. And we're going to do the same thing. Is you're going to copy and paste your hourly sales over to the left and then drop in the new sales right here. So you have 1 week ago, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. It's going to give you some interesting information. You can do things with it if you want. There's your 4-week average hourly sales. Here's the sales mix, once again, peaking the peaks for that particular shift. And then if you wanted to watch your cumulative sales, so by the end of the day, you're running about 2,700 in total. What this information does is it aggregates in 7 different tabs your hourly snapshot. So here it is. Here's the Friday. Sorry about that, jumping around. Here's your actual Friday snapshot of your restaurant.
Sure would be nice to have the managers on the floor have this in their pocket so that they know what's about to happen. Because when you're really busy, your last gut instinct is to start cutting the floor.
Exactly. That's one of the things that I did is I required my managers to carry this. So we knew when they were going to get busy, when you have to have everything ready by here, because that's when things start taking off, cut the floor here, have everything built and ready to go up here. And then if you're talking about cutting the floor in the afternoon, well, I'm not sure, or the evening, I'm not sure if this is right. You got a clear evidence right here that no, nothing happens after 9 o'clock. Cut the floor. You're safe.
Well, and for the back of the house, I'd say by 8:30, it's probably safe to start doing some closing duties and cycling people out as well, rather than waiting until that additional hour, 9, 10 o'clock comes around.
The predictability in here becomes really strong. And if you have any anomalies like a large party or a community event, you'll see a little spike somewhere, but the overall is going to be there and you can understand that was predictable or that was understandable. It's not going to skew your opinion of how unpredictable your business is. It's going to give you reasons for why it happened. A couple little other bonuses here. We're talking about this worksheet. This, again, you're going to get it at the end of the solution R. There's a couple other tabs. We're not going to go into them too deep, but if you want to budget for some labor, budget for spending money in food, you can edit anything that's in yellow is what you can edit. So you can set a food budget, and this is for a food spend if you wanted to manage that.
All right, so it actually gives me dollars that I have to spend on different categories in my kitchen. And since that part is all in yellow, I can change those categories, Chris, if I don't have seafood or something like that. This part of your spreadsheet is...
If you're a pizza restaurant and you want to track cheese
and
have a budget for cheese, absolutely. And it gives you a plus or minus how you're doing. And then so you've got to find out what your food sales mix is compared, and then what your spend budget would be. Again, this is a spend budget, not your actual tracking food cost.
Well, but as a chef, it gives me some really nice guidelines for achieving my food cost goal. I know whether I need to spend, or I know how much I have to spend, and it pretty much is going to tell me whether I can choose to put halibut on as a special this weekend or whether I'm going to buy some black cod instead that's a little bit less expensive so that I can still put a really cool special out, but I'm staying within my budget.
Right. You get a leg up on fighting the good fight. And then we also have a tab here for managing supplies. So if you have retail and you think that in order to sell properly, you need $2,500 in retail.
There's our t-shirts and hats.
And we underspent. But you know what? Wow. Talking about a history, we have a problem with paper cost. So we might dig in and are they handing out fistfuls of napkins or what's going on paper cost?
Well, my ribs are pretty sticky, so they might be handing out a lot of napkins.
Right. So our projection right there is 42,000. That will populate automatically for you. You put this information in, and then you'll get your basically your budget for the week.
Mhm.
So cool stuff, and that's there for you. That'll be coming to your way at the end of the solution arc. Now we're going to go back to the slide segment. And there we are.
Chris, there's one question here, Alicia Judd. Is there a way that we can do a food supplies repairs maintenance budget like this as well? Would you put that on that last piece that you just showed?
That's the cool part about that is anything in yellow, you can add that onto it. So you would have a repair, maintenance, or food supplies budget for sure.
So you could use that sheet for those types of things and just not have retail t-shirts on there. That could be repairs. So
Yeah.
Alicia could switch those things out.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
It would be a great tool for us.
All right, great question, Alicia. Thank you.
So far what we've talked about is the importance of using history to give you predictable information. That's the story that lives inside your building, and you want to draw that story out and use it to your advantage. If we're not capturing that information, then we miss the opportunity to really start launching forward and identifying what is happening and what's good information.
So remember, really, what we're talking about here is you start tracking your weekly sales snapshot. You aggregate that into your annual sales by week. And here you can really discover your larger scale trends. So just recapping this thing, your weekly leads into the annual. Then you can overlay holidays, weather, all that stuff that's in your manager's logbook or on a calendar stuck on the wall with what really happened with your numbers.
Many of us are already doing that. It's just a matter of bringing it all together. And then we start coming up with a forecast that's really based on real information. And the real information, again, is already in your building. We have it. We just need to put it in a place that makes sense to you. So the result is a labor budget really designed to maximize revenue. Your ideal guest to server ratio gives your sales team the time to focus and create an outstanding, wonderful experience for your customers. And guests that are having that experience spend more money, they come back more often, and they tell more friends about your business. And that's really that's the underground or the grassroots marketing that is the best possible message you could be sending your customers.
So it might seem counterintuitive to add labor in order to make more money. But using these forecasting and budgeting tools, you can be confident that if you do that, you're still going to be within the parameters of your budget because you haven't overspent somewhere and you're micromanaging that labor to just have them there when you really need to capture the revenue in your dining room, and you need them selling, not just delivering food.
We have a great roadmap for your budget that's based on reality, and then you can see if you're off track. You can actually help yourself grow. So we have a few minutes left. Let's take a few questions. Alexa, how much time do we have?
We've got about 6 minutes or so here. Let's look at Maggie's question. Thank you very much, Maggie. As a seasonal account, I could use that to forecast a busy season and a slow season for labor budgets?
Absolutely. What you want to do, Maggie, is you want to start with, if you have the historical information, I would probably take the worksheet, save it as worksheet A and worksheet B, or worksheet summer, worksheet off-season, whatever you want, and populate that information independently of it. So you would have a record of your in-season business and then a record of your out-season business, and then start to manage your budget according to what you want to accomplish.
So Maggie's asking, is it best to create a budget for each season?
Yes, I would totally agree. Yes, you need to create a budget for each season. I would take that a step further on that guest to server ratio we talked about. You might want to do a different guest to server ratio at your peak periods, so you can maximize when those dollars are already in your building.
So Alicia is asking, how do you figure out percentages for your budget? Like I think what she's asking there is, how do you use those percentages that are populating in there?
Well, the percentages are going to come up automatically. So they're just a relationship. That's a story of the relationship for the number. So like if we saw that 2% sales growth, that's telling you what's changing in the business. And so what you want to do is recognize if that's the trend, 2% growth, then you want to use that and move it forward. We're going to continue on that trend until your actual building history tells you something different. And then as far as some of those other budgetary ones, that depends on you and your P&L. If I think I need to run a 3% paper cost, and if that's working good on the P&L, then that's a good one. If you think you need to make up some ground, make a change there.
Okay.
That's a good question.
So we've got one more question here from Jamar, and he says that it's really great, but they're concerned about being understaffed in their kitchen and not having things always happen the same. That on a Sunday night, maybe they got bit a little bit. He says, we know we did the right thing closing the kitchen when we did at 10, but there's always that one customer who just doesn't understand how a restaurant works. So yeah, how do you take that one person that you've budgeted for them, and how do you handle that?
Well, that's a hospitality side. Is we do want to take care of all of our customers and have them leave happy and excited about it. So if there's any way that you can have, I always like going with yes is the answer. What's the question? Well, gosh, I'm sorry, Mr. Customer. We close at 10. That grill part is already taken down, but this is what I can do for you, and do it in such a way that it actually doesn't damage or put off the production or the closing process unduly. But you can answer the question with a yes, with what we can do. The reality is we do have to close at some point.
Exactly. We also have some restaurants where if they're serving alcohol or something longer, they might have that expectation where some food is provided, and maybe that's a secondary, more minor food offering that could be built for the bartenders or the front of the house to facilitate. Having been in Jason's restaurant, I know those tacos are pretty darn craveable, but
it is Taco Tuesday.
It is, but maybe something that they could hand out that switches out the responsibility of that from the kitchen to the front could help appease some of those people.
Right, and that's just the shell that we have to work with, is work around those parameters. So hopefully that answers your question, Jason. We do want to take care of our customers always and make sure they're getting what they want and they're talking positively about us outside of the building.
Alicia, you wanted to know if there's a way this video can be saved so you can look back and share with your managers. The answer is yes, yes, and yes. You can rewatch this. You'll get an email afterwards with the download, which will be a link to all these Excel tabs. It's one spreadsheet, multiple tabs that Chris has got set up there. And you can replay it as many times as you'd like. And if you have any questions, feel free to get a hold of us, because we'd be happy to answer those questions for you. But you're more than welcome to share it with your manager.
Always happy to help our friend Alicia. So we really enjoyed your participation in the solution hour. We appreciate the input and the questions and the poll answers. Look for that email shortly and the link to the complimentary worksheet.
And don't forget, you can always rewatch this time and time again until you work your way through the spreadsheets. Although once you get that cut, paste, input thing down, it's a matter of a minute or two a day.
Minutes.
And it's pretty exciting that you've then got, you've got something that you can share in your manager's meeting that gives you an overall view. You've got something that you can carry into the kitchen when you're doing purchasing, or into the office when you're doing scheduling that keeps you on budget. You've got something the managers can carry into the restaurant when it's busy, so they know when they can start staffing up or need to start staffing down.
Hopefully we help eliminate that surprise, that feeling of helplessness that I just can't predict my business. So we'd love for you to have you sign up for our next solution hour, which is going to be about how to identify more of that prime sales growth opportunity that already exists. It'll be a deeper dive into some of this conversation. And you can spend a lot of time and effort trying to attract new business. But what about that business that when the customer's in the dining room, the money's in their pockets right here, right now? We call that peak hour management. And it's already scheduled. It's for Wednesday, October 24th. So mark your calendars. And if you sign up for subscribe, you'll get that information. And we would love to talk to you again soon.
So thanks for your valuable time, everybody. We really strive to support your business advantage here at Food Services of America. Had a great time chatting with you today, and look forward to seeing and hearing from you on October 24th.
Thank you very much. See you soon.